What's up, guys? G-Rock1992 here. For this next video, I'm going to talk about another big grunge success. In the last video, I talked about Alice in Chains. Now I'm going to talk about another grunge success that really found themselves in the 90s. Another one of my favorite bands for sure. I like Alice in Chains a little bit better, but this band is very good anyway. I am talking about the band Soundgarden. They're a great band, and I'm going to talk about them basically. So, I will get to talking about them. They started out in 1984. That's when they formed. And their original members were, of course, one of the known one, Chris Cornell, who is just, his resume is just amazing. I'll be talking about him again for sure in some later videos, but you had guys like, actually, they started out with Chris Cornell, lead vocals, of course, rhythm guitar, Kim Thayil, lead guitar. He's been with the band. He's only one of two, he is only one of two guys in the band that has been with the band its entire career. Chris Cornell and Kim Thayil. Another guy who first came on for them, Hiro Yamamoto, who was the bassist from 1984 to 1989 until he left. And then replacing him was a guy named Ben Shepherd, who's been with the band since then, throughout their history. So Ben Shepherd, the current members right now are Chris Cornell, Kim Thayil, Matt Cameron, and Ben Shepherd. Matt Cameron is the drummer and backing vocals. They had an original drummer, Scott Sunkist, who was a drummer from 1985 to 1986 until Matt Cameron replaced him. Jason Everman was Yamamoto started out as the bassist from 1984 to 1989. Then Jason Everman came on from 1989 to 1990. And then eventually Ben Shepherd took over, and he's been with the band ever since. Thayil and Cornell, Cornell the lead singer, Thayil the lead guitarist, they've been with the band for the entire history of Soundgarden. So if you really look at it, they've only had 7 official members of the band in their career. Alice in Chains had only 6, but still, in an era in music history, and again, an era in music history where a lot of bands go through a lot of turnover, having 7 members for a band and having 3 leave is actually not that bad. So definitely, it turned out good for, all the moves turned out good for Soundgarden. So anyway, getting into it here, let's see. They started out with a few EPs, extended plays. Their first release was in 1987 with an EP called Screaming Life. Not a lot of people would probably know about it, but a single from that was a song called Hunted Down. Nothing much to say about that, really. In 1988, they came out with another EP called Fop. And, definitely not one that was really well known, per se. Among Soundgarden fans. These 2 EPs back-to-back were a way for Soundgarden to try to get into the mainstream. It was the route Alice in Chains went through. They released a lot of demos and EPs and things like that to try to get their name out there. And then the first album comes along. The first studio album, Ultra Mega OK, which came out in 1988 on Halloween. Actually, I find that pretty neat. October 31st. It was the debut studio album. One single came off of it, a song called "Flower." I haven't heard it. I haven't really heard any of the earlier Soundgarden stuff. Um, it not a whole lot to mention about it, but it didn't chart at all. I believe it didn't chart at all in the Billboard charts. Let me get to where I want to go here. But yeah, Ultra Mega OK. It did not chart at all in the U.S. No certifications at all. Studio album came after that. A year later, they came out with a studio album, Louder Than Love. For this one, they released two singles, Loud Love and Hands All Over. And again, it wasn't a big success. It didn't really do a lot in the U.S. It hit number 108 on the U.S. Billboard 200. So Soundgarden again trying to get their footing in America. A little slow to do that. Then they come out with Bad Motorfinger, and it turns out to be a pretty good success. Hits number 39. Bad Motorfinger, probably the album that really got them the recognition among grunge fans, among music fans in particular. Bad Motorfinger, it hit number 39 on the Billboard 200, and it went double platinum. Bad Motorfinger, it had a couple good, definitely had some good songs on it. There was a single that I've never heard of, Room a Thousand Years Wide, Jesus Christ Pose, which I don't know if I've ever heard that one. Outshined is one of their popular songs. Really one of their first big singles from what I can see. Outshined, a very good Soundgarden song. And Rusty Cage is underrated, I think, but it is a good Soundgarden song for sure. So yeah, it was definitely a success, and it got Alice in Chains noticed. But their breakout came with their next album a few years later, Super Unknown, which hit number 1 on the Billboard 200 in 1994. And it went 5 times platinum. And to date, it is their biggest success. I think it's their best-selling album. This album, big time success. 5 singles off of that album. All that I've heard of. All that I've listened to. Spoon Man is one of their most popular songs. The Day I Tried to Live, a very good song. And I'm talking about singles here. Black Hole Sun is probably their best known song. It was the song I first actually got introduced to when I started listening to Soundgarden. This was the very first song. For a while, this was the only song I knew until I started discovering all their other stuff that I had heard before on the radio and things like that. But this is the song I started out with, Black Hole Sun. And it really was a breakout single for them. My Wave, another single released off the album, and then Fell on Black Days is a good song too. All 5 singles off that album. All good Soundgarden songs. Head Down, I think, is another one that I've heard of before. That's also, it wasn't a single, but it is on the Super Unknown album. The title track, Super Unknown, I think another one that I know about and I've listened to before. So absolutely, it was pretty much Chris Cornell and Soundgarden at their best. During these two, The Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown. They released another album in 1996, Down on the Upside. It hit number 2 on the Billboard 200, and it only did go platinum, but still a pretty good success. Down on the Upside had 4 singles. Pretty Noose, which is it's a good song. Burden in My Hand is a very good Soundgarden song. Blow Up the Outside World is a very good song. And one I haven't really heard of, Ty Cobb / Rhinosaur was the 4th single off the album. But anyway, I mean, powered by those singles, Down on the Upside did rather well. And then because of disagreements within the band, I think it was pretty much disagreements within the band, I would have to say. You saw Soundgarden break up in 1997. They officially broke up. It was unfortunate, definitely. But a lot of internal conflicts between the bandmates. And April 9th, 1997, the band announced it was disbanding. So that was the date they officially disbanded. So we had to wait a while. One of the big notable successes between the time that Soundgarden left, Soundgarden disbanded, and between the time they formed again, most notably during that time, Chris Cornell, he had it pretty busy. He did Audioslave in the 2000s. Audioslave was a supergroup that was only around for a few years or so. I'll be talking about them later on. I'm definitely going to do a video on them. They're a good act. So that was the most notable thing among the band members, really. But yeah, I mean, a lot of activity between the band, a lot of activity with the former bandmates. Then eventually, in 2010, Soundgarden comes back again. They reform, everything's pretty good with them, and a couple years later they release the album King Animal, 2012. And King Animal turns out to be a pretty big success. It signals that Soundgarden was back. Number 5, it charted at number 5 on the Billboard 200. Doesn't have a certification yet. Maybe it will in the near future. But King Animal pretty much said, okay, Soundgarden's back. And only 2 singles came off that album. Been Away Too Long, which is one of the best Soundgarden singles, in my opinion, and then By Crooked Steps, which I believe I've heard of. Couple other songs on the album, Non-State Actor, which is a good song. And that's pretty much all I've heard of off the album, but again, it signals that Soundgarden's back pretty much. And it looks like that Soundgarden is here to stay, and that's a great thing. All the people who want to hear the great guitar work of Kim Thayil and the great vocals of Chris Cornell, especially the great vocals of Chris Cornell. As far as new releases, I'm not sure if they're coming out with anything big. 2015. Here it is. It says that in 2015, one of the bandmates, Kim Thayil, has mentioned that it's going to be highly likely that the band will work on a new album this year. They're going to start working on, it'll be their 7th studio album, but they're going to start working on it this year. Great news right there. I hope this next album will definitely be a big success. Now the part where I talk about the singles. It definitely, they've had a lot of great hits. Their best hit on their best single off the Billboard Hot 100 is "Black Hole Sun." No doubt, no surprises there really. "Black Hole Sun" is still their biggest hit, their biggest single. On the U.S. mainstream rock, U.S. hot mainstream rock tracks, "Black Hole Sun" was a #1 single for them. They had another #1 single in "Burden in My Hand," and another one in "Blow Up the Outside World." And they had three off that, and they had three other ones. "Live to Rise," which was off a, which was actually they contributed a song or so off the Avengers movie, which I just found out. I did not know that. "Been Away Too Long" and "By Crooked Steps" also hit #1 on the U.S. mainstream rock. Some other ones to take note of: "Fell on Black Days" and "Pretty Noose." They both hit #4. #3, "Spoon Man." And that's pretty much it for this video. I mean, here's to hoping that they are gonna come out with a new album, because they're a great musical act. I mean, they were definitely one of the top grunge bands in the 90s, and a great comeback for them, like Alice in Chains. So here's to hoping that that they still come out with some great music in the future, like Alice in Chains. Alright, that's it for the video. D-Rock 1992 out.